is indeed something secret about a beginning, secret and invisible, like the soul of infinite potential that broods in the heart of every living seed. My tongue is tied. I stare at a blank screen of my monitor. I don't know how to start. For the writer, it is the most difficult moment. A million things to say, but where to begin? My eyes search the walls and ceiling of my little office and fall upon the mask of the Hindu god Ganesha. His bright, pleasant face reminds me of the opening scene of Jean-Claude Carrier's play, the Mahabharata, where Vyasa, the author of the epic poem, is faced with his own writer's block as he strives to begin his monumental story. Unable to read or write him, Vyasa is blessed by the arrival of Ganesha, the beloved elephant-headed god who offers to serve as Vyasa's scribe and takes down his story from dictation. He also gives Vyasa some advice about how to start. How about beginning with yourself? Do at a will shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love and the will. My name is Frater Tet, and I'll be your host tonight in 93 Minutes with. And I'm pleased to welcome and introduce to you my dear Frater Hor, who's going to be the co-host of our show tonight. Frater Hor is one of the co-founders of Het Herozebi of Thelema, as well as a co-founder of 777 Magazine, a multi-lineage digital publication from the Holy Order. He also translated, edited, and published several Thelemic publications in Brazil. Good night, Frater Hor, and welcome.
Good night, brothers. Thrilled today, thrilled.
Yeah, me too. So, I'm really pleased to introduce our guest tonight, and I'm excited, and you know, it's like having a conversation with somebody who is your book, the books you read during the big part of your life. So I'm going to introduce him with a little biography. His biography is much bigger than that, but I'm just going to summarize it. He's a singer, a songwriter, a recording artist, a humorist, author of 19 acclaimed books, translated in 12 languages on magic and the occult. Critics had called him one of the most respected and entertained writers and lecturers in the field of Western mystery tradition. Since 1996, he has been OTO United States Deputy Grand Master. He's also an Archbishop of Ecclesia Agnostica Catholica, the ecclesiastical arm of OTO, and the longest living member of OTO after the death of Phyllis Seckler. He's also an authority on tarot, ceremonial magic, and Freemasonry. Teaching magic for the past 43 years, he's also a faculty member of the Omega Institute in Rhinebeck, New York, and in Robert Anton Wilson's Maybe Logic Academy. I'm pleased and really honored to welcome you, Lon Milo DuQuette. Welcome and good night.
Thank you. The honor is all mine. I really appreciate you thinking of me and inviting me on.
Oh my God, I forgot to record. Oh no, I'm recording. No, I'm recording. I'm recording. Oh, okay. I'm so happy.
I'll repeat my biography then.
You can. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to ask you about the beginning anyway.
Okay.
Okay, so I think this is all. Let's begin with that, begin with the beginning. You already talked about your early experience with occultism, spirituality, and magic. You already said that LSD was one of your entry door to heavier drugs like ceremonial magic. But I heard you say also that your father and his relation with the Freemasons had a deep impact on you. So we want to hear you, how it all began.
Well, first of all, my father was not really a mystical kind of guy. Okay, he was open-minded and he wasn't a radical religious guy at all. He believed in God, but he was almost an atheist. Okay. But he said he couldn't be an atheist because Masons can't be atheists. But anyway, but he didn't raise me religious at all. And my mother was like very fundamentalist. And I pretty much knew from childhood that she had it all wrong. And she had it wrong about a lot of stuff. And I figured grown-ups can't believe this, you know. But anyway, my father he joined the Masons the year I was born, 1948. And he had a few Masonic books. And one of them was The Big Morals and Dogma by Albert Pike, which is relative to the 32 Degrees of the Scottish Rite. But it was a spooky looking book. And it had like gold, the sides of it were gold and had a double-headed eagle looking all occult. And it had some illustrations that looked wild and showed illustrations of ancient religions and Egyptian stuff and Greek stuff and the mystery school stuff. And it just looked so cool.
Of course.
And but really what got me sort of interested in that in relationship to my father was that my father was really a good guy. I mean, he was a good guy. He was just good for goodness sake. You know, he didn't have no religion to, force a morality on him or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And he was good and he was honest and he was noble without rubbing anybody's nose in it. You know, he was it's just like, well, this is how humans should be, you know? And I sort of put two and two together that, you know, I think his love of Masonry kind of has something to do with the fact that he was just such a noble character. Mm-hmm. And so I kept asking him about all of this secret stuff or this wild, colorful stuff that I was finding in the Morals and Dogma. And he says, I could tell you, but it's a secret.
And how old were you at that time, more or less?
I was probably, my memory of actually asking him about that was when I was still in California. So I had to have been 4 or 5. Okay.
Oh, you were really young.
Really young.
And, well, I had a hip disease, a bone disease in my hip, which kept me pretty much immobile during the early part of my life. So I do remember very detailed things from way back in my past that I probably would have forgotten if I would have been able to go out and play, you know. Yeah.
But that's something interesting, Lon, because in your book, My Life with Spirits, you mention episode of coming in and out of conscious as an early child and recalling the visions you had, seeing yourself now as a grown man. For example, what's your understanding about those experiences nowadays?
Well, there's a few theories that can help explain it, but while it was happening, like I said, when other children go out and start playing, they lose. I mean, everybody. they lose those very early infantile mental processes and things. So even before we speak language and we learn the
word.
language,
Yes.
We're thinking. A baby's brain is just going crazy, wild stuff. But we don't have words to put it in. They're visual and symbolic language that's going through a kid's head. And most kids lose that.
Yes.
Once they get out and start playing and get out in the outside world, they forget that. But I was privileged. I was so lucky to, at the exact time when I was going to lose those infantile memories, that I was allowed to go back into the crib.
Yes. Yes.
And drift in and out of waking consciousness 24 hours a day. So in other words, I didn't sleep 8 hours and then was awake 8 hours. I was asleep for a half an hour and awake for a half an hour or 20 minutes, on and off, until it was almost impossible to tell when I was in.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And in that state, in that wonderful dream state that I was very comfortable in, I had visions of, or memories of me as an adult. At first, I was in a ditch, in a dirt ditch, a trench with soldiers. Okay. And I remember things like fireworks and explosions going on. And I could even hear, it's almost like a rhythm of the pattern of dirt clods falling on my helmet.
Oh my God.
And for some reason, it didn't terrify me. It didn't. Okay. It just was. Okay. Now you have to remember these visions are taking place in 1949, 1950. We didn't have a television set.
Yes.
You know, I hadn't even listened to radio. You know, our folks had a radio, but I'd never gone to a movie.
It was memory. It was visual memory.
Visual memory.
Yes.
And and another one where was male, and I remember I had visions of what I would later be able to recognize as the sets of silent movies.
Yes.
Okay. Right there in Southern California, and watching the rushes or the tests of film, of old film without sound, and I could hear the clicking of the machinery and everything else. And I had a beautiful car. I had a little roadster. Okay.
Oh my God.
And this was just so clear, because it was not only the visual memory of it, but it was the smells and my emotional excitement. And there was one sequence that I'd play over and over again where I was walking out of this beautiful sort of bungalow apartment in Hollywood and getting into my cool car and driving south on the coast highway toward Ensenada, Mexico, where I was going to meet a woman. Okay. And I was so excited. Okay. I was so horny. Okay. And my baby body didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew there was something I could do, and it was really cool. You know, it was really fun. but it was just totally clear to me that, hey, I've been an adult a couple times here. Hey, wait,
Yes.
what am I doing in this baby body? You know?
Yes. Yes.
And let's see.
Yes, and you see, when you were telling the story, I remembered something that you said about forgetting those memories as a child that we all forget. And what I understand, I'm also a psychologist, so this is something already studied, and I didn't remember that, but now you said it, it came to my mind that when language arrives, it makes another layer in our mind, so the images, they go under, so we kind of lose that. And as you were saying, I kept on thinking about the power of images, and it also recalled me the impact that you already read you saying that you had a huge impact on the images of thoughts tarot. And you know, you were saying about your father's book and the images in the book. So I was going to, and you already designed the tarot yourself. You already drew one. So I was going to ask you about the power of images for you, especially if you can also say a little bit about how the thoughts tarot images had an impact on you. So, because this is something for me that's special to understand, the power of images.
That's the secret of the ninth degree. Oh, do you want me to repeat it? Oh, I can only say it once. Okay, are you still there? I can't hear you.
Oh, okay. We were saying about the power of images, and
Okay.
we both heard a secret of the ninth degree, so we are okay with that. You don't need to repeat. You know, listeners, you know, I'm sorry we lost the recording on that part.
Right.
But go back to the power of images.
I told him to do that, but I like you guys. So.
Thank you.
So I was really affected when television came on the scene. Okay. Because here again, I felt an instant affinity for the power of images, because even in my infantile memories of working in the film industry in the 20s or 30s, you know, I was working with images.
Yes.
And when I finally, because of my pretty profound psychedelic experiences in the mid 60s,
Yes.
I got passionately interested in mysticism and magic and such. And the Rosicrucian Order Amorc. Okay?
Yes, yes.
I got involved with them, and both in the correspondence courses, which are pretty good, and the local lodge down here in Long Beach. And that sort of pointed me in the direction of the Kabbalah.
Mm-hmm.
They had a Kabbalah course that I took, which, but several other members in my local lodge were members of BOTA, or the Builders of the Additum.
Mm-hmm.
Had a Paul Foster Case.
Paul Foster Case, yeah.
Right. A marvelous correspondence course on tarot fundamentals and advanced tarot and Kabbalah. that's when I started to put two and two together. About the archetypal images of the tarot being capable of triggering universal archetypal things in us, like pressing a keyboard on a computer keyboard terminal sets into motion things that all of us share together.
Yes.
It's like we're just all different terminals of one great big network.
Yes. Yes.
But we're still using A, B, C, and
Yeah.
okay, we're all using those same things. And archetypal images of the tarot are like those keys. And so we're all hardwired with it. It's not like oh, I mastered those. No, we're all we're born with them. Okay,
Yeah.
that's how we're hardwired. And so I really got into the BOTA program where you color in your own set of tarot cards. And the first card that I colored was the Fool card. And I thought, well, this is kind of childish and everything else. And I hadn't even, gotten educated myself enough to know that the Golden Dawn, the adepts of the Golden Dawn, or painted their own tarot decks. I mean, from scratch, they painted their own decks. But anyway, it was at a time in my life, I was young, probably 27, 28 years old. And I had our son was just a baby, just like 1 year old or less. And I was flat broke, because I've been a musician my whole life. So I've never had any money or stability or sense of responsibility. Okay? But I love this mystic stuff. Okay. And so I dutifully took 2 weeks to paint that Fool card. Very carefully followed all the directions and the right colors and the right spots and everything else. And then I put my Fool card up on my little meditation altar and fell asleep.
Amazing.
Okay. And in that sleep, there's other things involved, traumatic experience of losing all of our groceries and drinking too much coffee. But I had the wildest dream. Okay. It wasn't a dream. Okay. No dream ever was like this experience. Okay? And not only was it an experience, how easy it is to forget dreams.
Yes.
Okay. Nah, this one.
It was an experience. You really, it was really vivid, and you felt it. Yes.
And I describe it in one of the chapters in My Life of the Spirit, My Life of the Spirits. But even when I woke up from the dream, the visions of the dream stayed in the room. And I wrote it all down. It's in my diary, and I just said, "Oh, you can't believe what happened, dear." But the idea that what the BOTA sort of suggested was going on if you really dutifully painted that tarot card.
Yes.
That it was meant to trigger.
Yes.
certain little expansions of consciousness. In a way, it sort of readjusted my whole psyche.
Yes.
It was then that I knew, okay, this is really good stuff here.
Amazing.
Okay, that we're on to.
And nowadays, you feel like tarot is like a divination tool or more a magic tool, or how do you see tarot today?
Well, when I was in the BOTA, they said, don't use it to tell fortunes.
Yeah.
Okay, they'll cripple you spiritually, you know.
Yeah.
And so for years and years and years, I didn't even think about using it for divination because it was such a marvelous meditative tool.
Mm-hmm.
And it was not only a liberal arts education in hermetics, it was a master's degree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, in hermetics. And it was only much later when tarot became an organic part of me that I began to recognize, well, oracles work because they're perfect. It's perfect. Okay, it's mathematically perfect. It's okay. Oracles work because they're based on some form of beautiful perfection. And perfection itself and beauty itself triggers eternal truth in all of us. So theoretically, anything that's beautiful, anything that's approaching perfection is a good candidate for an oracle. And so I started to use tarot as an oracle, and it's pretty easy for me to read tarot cards for someone else. But I lie to myself so much. Okay.
Don't we all? Let's be honest.
Yes. And, the I Ching doesn't give you a chance to lie to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You ask the I Ching a question and they say, there it is, you poor bastard. It's going to be okay. You're an idiot. Okay, you're being an idiot. That's how the I Ching goes. But the tarot is an instrument of Mercury. It's a mercurial oracle.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so's the I Ching too, but Chinese just have no patience with me, so they
We want to talk about China later. We want to ask you about that.
Yeah. And Mercury is not only the god of communications and transferences of energy and information and stuff, but Mercury is also the god of liars and lawyers.
It makes sense.
And so it's really easy for me to lie to myself with the tarot. Yeah, I'll ask a serious question and try to read my tarot cards, and it'll go, oh, the Tower card, crossed by death with the Seven of Swords. Oh, I was hoping that would happen. Oh, yeah. Telling me to go ahead and be an idiot.
Lon.
Yes.
Lon, the BOTA, they had amazing practical courses. Yes, it's very practical. Do the magic, do the stuff. Yeah. One of your most popular books here in Brazil is also a do your stuff do your Magick book. That's the Magick of Aleister Crowley, very popular here. It seems to me a concise commentary of Libero, Liber of Lies, various Thelemic rituals. You expose them with your trademark of humor and didacticism. Yeah. When did you realize that this kind of humor was missing in occult literature, mainly in Thelema?
Well, you're right that at least it seems to be lacking with occultists of all ilk. Okay, it seems like people that lose their sense of humor and take themselves too seriously. Now, it's not that it's not a serious subject, okay, but it needn't be more boring than it needs to be, okay. It needn't be more serious and cold as it needs to be, and but in a way, I disagree with you that Thelema has been lacking in humor, because that's what I loved about Crowley when I first started to get Crowley. Because at first you're scared to death of Crowley. Okay, I was freaked. Okay. When I got this tarot deck here, this very one right here in the 70s, I was fresh out of BOTA, you know, and I thought, oh, good, tarot cards, this is neat. I didn't even know who Crowley was. And when I read a couple things that he was a terrible Satanist, and he ate babies, and oh, gee, and but when I got the Book of Thoth, his book, the Book of Thoth that explains the cards, supposedly, I didn't understand 99% of that book. It went so far over my head that I could hardly understand any of it. But the little tiny bit that I did understand was so amazingly cool. And not only that, but the things that freaked me out the most, I read them over and over and over again, and I found out that, oh, he's really being insanely funny. He's better than George Carlin, okay? This, it really, really is. The fact that he was unafraid and uninhibited to show his humanness and his smallness and his narcissism and all, he just let it all hang out. But he let it hang out in such a way that you could see, that he could see what Eastern mystics talk about when they talk about the comedy of God, the divine comedy, the funniness of life, and I've always responded to that. Okay, even on things that have that I should be taking so serious because of their the gravity of the subject, but to me, things have always been funny. I've always been the class clown in school. I've always been punished for being the class clown and for being irreverent and being kicked out of Sunday school and being kicked out of the church and being kicked out of school. And
But
because, go ahead.
This kind of, the way you treat the subjects, for me at least, it brings some lightness to it, that it makes it possible for me to approach it. For instance, when I read Enochian Vision Magick, written by you, it became more possible for me to kind of get into the subject. For instance, it's not a humor book, but it made it possible because of the way you bring it. And I think you already said that you had sessions in your house for 3 years before. I don't know if it was before writing the book, after writing the book. And I also wanted to hear a little bit about how that went, because, when you bring that way of sharing and transmitting the subject, it makes it possible for us to approach it also.
Well, this pandemic has caused us to pause or suspend a weekly magic class that we've had in our 79. And for 3 of those years, it was 2 times a week.
Amazing.
And in those 3 years, we focused exclusively on Enochian magic. Because it's a big subject, and in order to explore the elemental and sections of Enochian magic, it requires hundreds of sessions. Okay. And they're scrying sessions, but I've never thought of myself as being a teacher, because we started the magic class as just something I felt obliged to do as being an OTO lodge master, which we got our lodge chartered in 1978. And I thought, well, I better have class. And, I think the best way for you to learn a subject, and especially the best way to approach mastering a subject, is by teaching it. Because none of us know what we know until we try to explain and answer other people's questions.
Yes.
And we don't answer our own questions unless we're forced to ask them in the form of somebody else asking you a question. Okay.
You don't even realize you had that question before somebody asked you that.
Wow, I didn't know I knew that.
Yes.
And so that's what the Monday night class is like. And it's not like I'm teaching it. It's like I'm, especially in the United States, they have these mechanical bulls. Okay, you put money in it and you get on this mechanical bull and you write it back and forth. Well, that's what Monday night magic class is for me. I don't teach it. I write it like a mechanical bull. And the class just takes over. But especially when I teaching Kabbalah, which can be a very dry subject, I found that if I started by telling goofy little stories to illustrate these Kabbalistic principles, and I do that year after year after year after year, the stories get goofier and goofier and goofier. and also at the same time, that goofiness seems to deliver the essence of what I'm talking about in such a, it's like everybody, you sort of disarm your soul while you're laughing, and something is not really truly funny unless it is insanely, intensely true. And a joke or a humorous anecdote or illustration sometimes delivers the most profound message in a way that a serious scholarly tone wouldn't be able to do.
And you feel like that was maybe one of the reasons why you created, I don't know, I'm asking, one of the reasons why you created Rabbi Lamed Ben Clifford or Baba Lon? Do you feel
Absolutely.
like it was one of the reasons?
Yeah. I confess. That's exactly why I did it. Because I needed to split myself up. I needed to invent a rabbi or a baba. I needed to invent them so they could say all the things I really want to say and I need to say, but for one reason or another, or one publisher or another, or a cult group or another, it's probably not wise for me to say it. But this fictitious character allows me to say the things I really, really need to say, and I can say it in an outrageously funny manner.
Yes. And it delivers the message. For saying as a reader and a practitioner, it delivers the message. So
real good.
And also about Kabbalah, I want to ask you something also about Kabbalah. We see nowadays the majority of occultists today, they just read and they are, super scholars on Kabbalah. But the way I think you say a lot about the difference between reading and studying and practicing. And I wanted to hear a little bit about how do you feel about the practice of Kabbalah?
Everybody's Kabbalah is uniquely their own. I'll start off by saying that. You could learn the Kabbalah and say, "Oh, I follow this school of Kabbalah." I guess you shouldn't even call it a school. It's a way to retrain your mind. And it's even more than that. It's a way of waking up. And all of us are asleep. Let me just start by Let me just start by saying we're in a dream right now. Okay, we're fortunate to share each other's dream enough for us to have a little interview like this. Okay.
Yes.
But all of us are asleep. Otherwise, we would be totally embroiled in the wall-to-wall bliss of the supreme singularity of consciousness. Okay. And let's face it, we're not.
Yes, we're not.
we're asleep inside a dream, inside of a dream, inside a dream, inside a dream. And probably a lot more dreams. And Kabbalah, in a sense, is just taking our most shuffled up and disordered dream and organizing it in such a way as we can almost pinpoint what dream we're in.
Amazing that way of saying.
Right. So, but because each of us are asleep and dreaming our own unique dream because of the circumstances of the current monad of consciousness that we're locked in, because each of us are dreaming our own separate dreams, each of us have to awaken in our own specific, special way.
That's
And
amazing.
And Kabbalah is meant to help you awaken. So each of us needs to awaken in our own particular way. The techniques of Kabbalah and the mental and tricks and games Kabbalists play are all just to help us awaken in our own unique way. So the individual nature of the Kabbalah makes it very incompatible with like learning mathematics, or like learning physics, or like learning chemistry, where there's this hardcore set of knowledge bits that you master. No, Kabbalah's different than that. And so because that's why I get so amused by Kabbalah snobs.
Well, but that was a profound teaching you gave us. And a master at his heart. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, we have Paula with us.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh,
Hello, guys.
welcome,
Hello,
welcome. Paula is with us to ask you a question also. She's also from Heteros AB of Thelema. And so go ahead, Paula.
Nice to meet you, Lon.
Nice to meet you.
And let's talk about your new book. You released earlier this year a new book. Allow me to introduce an insider's guide to the cult. The book encompasses a series of introductory essays that you wrote for occult books, renowned personalities such as Aleister Crowley, Frater Ahad, Israel Regardie, among others. Tell us about the idea of bringing together these essays.
And so here's the book for everybody to see. Here's the new book.
Yes. Yes, I thought I had one around here, but I gave it away.
Here it is.
Oh, thank you.
I got it. Thank you.
Thank you. It's not in Portuguese yet. But anyway, well, what would you like to know about it in particular?
What? Sorry?
Oh, what would you like to know about the book?
The idea of bringing together these essays. Okay?
Gotcha. Okay. Be lucky over the years. Okay. I'm not all that smart. I'm not all that talented. I'm not a lot of things. But what I am is lucky. And I've been lucky to know some of the most talented, most knowledgeable, and most colorful characters and personalities in modern 20th century occultism. And I was lucky when I was in my late teens and early 20s to just stumble onto books that inspired me and triggered not only my own interests, but inspired me. Books by Yogi Ramacharaka, okay, who is a guy named William Walker Atkinson back in early 1900s. And Yogananda, Paramahansa Yogananda, and Swami Vishnu Vivekananda, and Ramakrishna.
Yes.
And I was just so lucky to stumble onto the handful of books. And when it came to my interest growing into magic, I was so lucky to run across the works of Francis Israel Regardie, Aleister Crowley, and the various books of Aleister Crowley. These books, these authors changed my life. They mutated me. Okay. Who knows what the hell I would have been had I not been mutated by reading these books. And then I became lucky years later when the ones that were still alive, I had a chance to meet and to correspond with and to be with and to work with people like Regardie. And so over the years, I've been asked by various publishers when they're getting ready to republish classic books in the occult series, books by Eliphas Levi, books by Aleister Crowley. I've been asked to write the forewords to it, or the introductions to them, or the afterwards, or to contribute a chapter to. And it's an awesome responsibility because it's like every time I'm asked to write an introduction, I have to come up with absolutely the best I can possibly throw together that would do justice to the awesome brilliance of these writers. And so a good foreword is maybe 5,000 words at the most, and mostly around 2,000 words. Okay, it's not very long, but I have to make it the best I can possibly come up with. I have to show the depth of my inspiration for that subject and that author.
It's like a good opening of a concert, you know. It's like a good opening show, or you know, it sets up the mood of the audience.
So over 35 years, okay, I've written a lot of these suckers, okay, and I work really hard on it, and I mostly do them for absolutely no. I do it just because, oh my God, what an honor to do. I'm not worthy, you know. And, but I've got 35 years worth of these, what I consider my best works. And I got 35 years of my best works that hardly anybody reads. They just skip right over the introduction by who's this DuQuette guy? Oh, yeah, right, okay. But let's get into Eliphas Levi, or let's get into Regardie, you know. And so I was faced at this point in my life, my aging dotage here, I was faced with some of my best writings being some of my least read published works. And so I approached my publisher, Wiser Books, and said, I just want to write or publish an anthology of my introductions. And of course they go, ha, 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 ha. You what? You know? And I said, no, I want to publish an anthology of my introductions. I want to call it Allow Me to Introduce, you know. And they go, no, you know, that's not going to fly. You know? And I said, no, it'll fly. Okay, I just have a feeling this thing's going to work. And it took them about a year, okay, going back and forth for me to get the letter that said, well, you know, they said, okay, we'll do the book, but you got to call it something else besides Allow Me to Introduce. And I said, no, no, Allow Me to Introduce. Believe me, it'll work, you know. So that's the story of that. And it's one of my most, it's a work that I'm particularly proud of. And it has been well received, and I'm gratified by that.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Your work on your forewords, everything you wrote on that, there's something Enochian, I have some Enochian books on Crowley. Your forewords are pretty enlightened. It's a work of art.
Oh,
and,
thank you.
Truly. And I read that you once said or wrote, I don't remember, that art is magic. And let me compliment, living of art is magic. I'm also a musician, but I'm still there. So can you comment on your relationship as an artist and as a magician?
Sure. It took me many years before it actually sunk into my thick skull here that magic is an art form. Okay, it's a spiritual art form. And then it took me a few years more until it sunk into my thick skull that all art is magic. All artists are magicians. They don't have to know anything about Aleister Crowley or Kabbalah or Rabbi Ben Clifford or anything. They don't have to know any of that stuff. When you're an artist, you're a magician, and you're using all of the elements and the mechanisms of real magic. You're causing change to occur in the consciousness of the observer or the beholder of your art, even if the beholder is only you.
The stage is, you're the stage and you're the audience.
You're the stage and the audience and the director and the writer and the actor and the guy that sweeps up afterwards. Yes. And so early on in my life, I knew I wasn't going to be a good student in school. I think I had attention deficit disorder. Okay. If a subject didn't intrigue me, I wasn't interested in it, okay? I misbehaved in class. I was a class clown. And I was disciplined and I was expelled twice in high school. But what I could do was act. And what I could do was sing. And what I could do was play a guitar. I got early on, probably in the second grade when I was, nine or so, I was kind of discovered by the vocal music director of all the schools in my town, and who found out that I could sing okay, but that he could count on me to be in the big kid performances, like the high school performances when they needed a little kid for something.
Yeah,
Soloist.
yeah.
Soloist.
Yeah. They would come to my grade school and pick me out of grade school and take me to the high school to be in these plays and things. So by the time I got to high school, I was a known commodity as an artist. And they could count on me, you know. I was crazy. Okay, Lon's crazy, but you can count on him, you know, for a great performance. And that fact that I was in all the school musicals and the school plays, I was in the choir and played guitar in the folk group and things like that. That enabled me to graduate from high school because our vocal music director had the power at that school of a winning coach. So he made all the other teachers give me a C+, you know. So, but and of course I moonlighted starting probably in my junior year in a grown-up rock band, and by the time I was a senior, I had my own rock band in school, and again we were absolutely lucky, and we were a working band, and we needed to be because my father was very ill. He was dying, and I actually needed to work as a musician to help with
in a living, you know, to
yeah.
Yes.
And so I always considered myself an artist and an entertainer, but or an entertainer. It was just my only way to survive from day to day. It was the only way for me to be me and still survive.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
And I think most any artist, if they actually thought about it, would say that's what they're doing too. They're doing what they need to do to be themselves and survive.
Yeah. Incredible, Lon. Incredible. I don't know how much time we have. I think we're heading to the final questions, if it's okay for you.
Sure.
If you say, oh, I've got plenty of time. Okay.
Yes.
We have so much to ask you, but I will skip the script a little bit. And before going pass the ball to Ted and Sod or Ignis, I will ask you about this incredible date, 45 years of your initiation anniversary. Nowadays, we're still giving the weekly classes on Facebook or YouTube. I keep seeing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. We're talking about tarot, yes.
Yes.
Thoughts. And tell us about it. This 45 years back, who was Lon and who is Lon now? Tell us a little thing about Grady McMurtry also.
Okay. Well, it all goes back to that tarot deck that I showed you. That thing, okay? That's an old I don't know what edition that is. That's 1972 edition or 71. And inside this was a card, a promotional card, right here. That very card. That, and if you can see, I don't, do you see the, it had that OTO lamin on it. Now, I had never heard of the OTO when I bought this deck. But that lamin looks so damn cool. And that name sounded so cool. And all of the things that were said there sounded so cool. And then the cards were, of course, awesome. You know, after I stopped being freaked out. But down at the bottom there, okay, down at the bottom was in Dublin, California. Now it's signed now because that's the signature of Hyphenate Alpha. But this, I got this in like 1972. And I wrote that address. I wrote that address 4 times without getting a letter back because my letters sounded so freaking stupid. Okay. Kindly communicate to me as you will.
Who talks like that?
And then the second one, I said something like, well, kindly send me your brochures. And, yeah, let's hope. Am I still there? Okay.
Yes, you are.
Kindly send me your brochures. And they didn't write back. Well, it went back and forth for well over a year before I actually got a letter that said, okay, we don't do astral initiations or anything like that. You got to actually come to Dublin and become initiated. And I didn't know who these people were. Okay, I was just going on gut instinct.
Yes.
I wanted to be part of that cool looking thing. And they wouldn't even give me their names or their real residential address because they were worried that I was a crazy person because weird, wild things were happening.
And you gotta admit, you wrote 3 letters that were, kind of suspicious.
And finally, I got a letter that says, "We don't know who you are. We can't. Send us your complete, detailed birth information, the date and hour, and write a resume." Okay, and this letter was from, I'd later find out it's from Phyllis Seckler. And, but anyway, they said, okay, we'll initiate you on November 15th, 1975. You have to take a bus 600 miles.
Oh.
Okay. Have the bus stop at a certain intersection just outside of this town of, I think, Pleasanton. Go to the motel and check in and wait for us to call. They were worried that I was one of these occult crazies that had robbed Israel Regardie, who had robbed and tied up and stole the libraries of Carl Germer and Okay, it was scary stuff. Okay, and I was thinking on this all-night bus ride up from my house, I don't even know these people's names. I don't know their address. I couldn't even tell Constance exactly where I was going or who I was going to. And then all of these old stories that I'd heard about Aleister Crowley, I said, well, maybe they were all true, you know. And I was thinking, God, what if I'm greeted by a priapic old British man in goat leggings and a saggy-titted old woman with red hair, and what if they rape and eat me? You know, my wife won't even know where I went. You know, this is stupid for me to be doing this. And so it was with real trepidation that I had the bus driver drop me off on that country road where I walked across the gravel driveway to this motel that had a sign that flashed Akency. The V had burned out. Akency. But anyway, when Phyllis, she eventually called me and said she'd pick me up. She was relieved to see me because I didn't have a butcher knife and 666 on my forehead. And I was relieved to see her when she didn't have a butcher knife and 666 on her forehead. And so that was the evening or the early morning of November 14th. And she took me to her lovely little sort of gingerbread house in Dublin with a beautiful garden and Crowley books from floor to ceiling, and she answered all my questions. She calmed my nerves about baby eating and things like that, you know. And then that afternoon, Grady McMurtry, her husband then at the time, showed up. That's who signed that. And on the evening of November 15th, 1975, the ceremony was going to take place in their garden that night, a beautiful backyard garden, but it was raining, just like that. So we had to do it in their garage, which they had beautifully made over with black curtains all over the place. So it just looked like a real wonderful temple. And I took my Minerval degree that night. And afterwards we had a wonderful dinner. And I got to hear Grady McMurtry talk about being with Crowley, staying with Crowley, playing chess with Crowley. And any question that my little ignorant mind could come up with at that early stage in my career, they answered. They weren't keeping anything back. Any question I could ask, they would answer. There was never, oh, that's in a degree higher than yours. No. Come up with a question, you get the answer. And that was the beginning of my OTO career.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, that was a really amazing story, and you described it, the garden and everything. It was amazing to hear. But we're finishing for today, and we want to ask you 3 questions that we are asking about. The first one is about the the present moment, in global pandemic, hybrid or wars, intolerance. And well, Frater Jorge, do you want to ask the question?
Okay, I've just one more question. That's one of my own, Lon. Do you think those times we're living, global pandemic, increased intolerance, hybrid wars through the world, do you think we're living in kind of a Liber All Chapter 3 stage? Oh, sorry.
Obviously we are, okay. In a sense, we've been in a chapter 3 phase since around April 1904. Mm-hmm. Okay. But we're coming to a head in it right now. Now the idea of aeons is interesting. Point to the 3rd chapter of the Book of the Law, saying, wow, this sounds brutal. This sounds heartless. This sounds violent and selfish. And
it sounds like yesterday.
It sounds like right now. Yeah, it really does. So they said, well, how can, is that what you Thelemites embrace? Here's the thing about aeons, okay? Crowley said within human memory, we've got 3 major aeons. The aeon of Isis, which was like the pagan. Okay, we saw everything as getting nourishment directly from the earth and from Mother. Are you still with me? Or
Yes, we are.
Okay. So we were earth-centered and mother and woman-centered, and then that gave over to us realizing the importance of the sun. Okay, mm-hmm. And so that would mm-hmm. be the beginning of the age of Osiris. But that carried with it a certain preoccupation with the cycles of the sun. Sun comes up, sun goes down, winter, summer, okay. So that mm-hmm. gave us a preoccupation with death. So the age of Osiris was the death cult. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But then, and Horus is the child now, okay? And children, they're innocent and they're beautiful and they're new life and they're all sorts of stuff like that. But they're freaking brats, okay? And they're narcissistic and they're violent and they're cruel, okay? So there are all of those things, and nobody can deny that we are up to here in innocence and beauty and cruelty and all the things. We're being brats, okay?
Yes.
The next age, which is foreshadowed in the Book of the Law, is when Fruma of the gods, and that is Mat, or the goddess of justice. We're not there yet, but just as in the age of Horus, the worshipers of Horus are manifesting Horus. They're manifesting the brat, okay? Yes. The worshipers are manifesting, okay? But the adepts of the age of Horus are laboring to bring to birth the aeon of Mat and justice and equality and all of those things. So there's a difference between the adepts in an age who are laboring to bring to birth the next aeon that we're on the threshold of right now, and then the worshipers who are still stuck in the crystallized putrefaction of the formula of the age. Does that make any sense?
It does. It's like we were saying before about being conscious and unconscious, and what you just said made me think about, you know, when Jung says that if you're not conscious about the archetype, you're just acting it without consciousness. So you're just living it.
Yeah.
And the adepts that are conscious of the archetype, they can make a difference. They don't have to live it. They can they can do something about it. It makes a lot of sense.
Just like you're being stuck in a non-player character in a video game.
Exactly. Yeah, but that's it, you know. And you don't have a clue that you're stuck in a character.
Right.
You think you're acting by yourself.
Right.
Amazing.
The adepts have to be a real character.
Amazing.
Okay. And not a non-player character. Yeah.
Amazing. I want to ask you something about, you know, differences in cultures, and if we can talk just a little bit at least about that, because you have been in Asia for several times. I think your son lives in Asia right now. I don't remember, but what do you feel about the absorption of Oriental and Western paradigms in Magick? Have you researched anything about ancient Chinese magic or anything like that?
Not from a scholarly point of view, no. But for 2 years, I traveled, I think, 8 in 2 years. I might be 7, but I think it's 8 times. Different places, but mostly Beijing area. And I'm only speaking subjectively because remember what I said about the best way to learn magic is to teach magic?
Yes.
Well, for me, the best way for me to understand the Oriental or the Eastern psyche is to teach magic in China. And being forced to weigh every word, every concept, every nuance of what magic is to be understandable by the Chinese mindset. And not that there's a monolithic Chinese mindset. And what I do understand about Eastern thought and the Tao and Buddhism,
yes,
was enough to make me see the universal application of magic to the Eastern model. And like I could easily just flat out say the will that Crowley's talking about and do what thou wilt, the will is the Tao. Okay?
That's amazing.
Just insert one word for another in both of the texts, and
amazing.
That's what that is.
Amazing.
And so I, as I was teaching, I was, of course, learning more than I was teaching. And the last 4 times I returned to Beijing, I did it every 90 days to teach one group of people. And so I invented a 3-degree Kabbalah magical order.
Yeah.
And the first three were 3-degree initiations, broken up into the Hebrew alphabet, three mothers, 7 doubles, and that enabled me to. And when I came home from that a series of travels, I turned that into a book, which you have in your hand right there.
Yes, both of them are here, you know.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for them. Thank you.
And so that Son of Chicken Kabbalah would never have been created because it took a lot of work to create that. And I'm lazy. I hate work. I would have never written that book. Gee, I could watch TV, you know? But I had to, because for some reason I had gotten myself committed to doing 3-degree Kabbalah initiation. And so I had to invent a Kabbalah order.
Yes. That's amazing.
And that's what that book is. So it may seem like, and it is Chicken Kabbalah Part 2.
Mm-hmm. The Son.
Yes, but it is, for all intent and purposes, my love letter to my Chinese students.
That's amazing. It is an amazing story. Thank you for sharing that. And we need to think about translating more your books to Portuguese. And Brazil needs that kind of literature also. And speaking about literature, I want to ask you if you can, give us tell us a little bit about literature or films. You said a lot about movies and songs. You're a songwriter, and that influenced and that you feel like they're really something that every magician should listen or see or get in touch with. What's your recommendations about that?
Oh, I don't. Okay. Don't feel obliged to do anything that you don't enjoy watching or listening to. Movies were for me my church when I was a kid, although I was in the church, but my church, my religion was the movie theater, because it gave me everything that religion should be giving me. Okay. It inspired me. It elevated me. It changed my consciousness. There were beautiful women. There were adventures. There was things that made me think that's another thing that mutated my consciousness.
Stories, the power of stories.
Right. And because it was such a small town, and the movies changed once a week, I got to watch the same movie 5 times in a row, that over a weekend, every time. And believe me, the movie theater was the best place to be in Columbus, Nebraska. Okay? But literature-wise, when I started to read books, I really enjoyed just the crazy thing adolescent boys of my age would like. And it'd be like the detective stories of Mickey Spillane, the Mike Hammer detective stories. And then a little later on came James Bond. I read every James Bond thing. But what I was really, really super tickled with was Mark Twain. I worshipped Mark Twain.
Amazing.
He's my hero.
Amazing.
I'm going to be just like Mark Twain when I grow up. So I liked him, and that sort of brought me into a sort of a socially conscious thing. And so as the late 50s and early 60s came, I was interested. Left political literature that was connected with the early civil rights movement and the anti-war movement, because Vietnam was starting up. And that brought me into contact with the folk music of Woody Guthrie and Pete Seeger, and the same people that were inspiring the early works of Bob Dylan. And so that folk music venue of the college students and the politically awakened and socially aware college students, where every song had a meaning, had a message, rather than just being noise, beautiful noise or otherwise. That's what got me into the being truly self-identified as a folk musician. And that's what I still consider myself.
Amazing.
Nice. Sauter, Paula, do you want a last question with Lon?
We can finish?
Oh,
Not.
there, we can hear you?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Lon, please give us a final message to Heterozabe of Thelema viewers, please.
A final message?
Yeah.
Be good to yourself.
Self-compassion. Self-compassion. Yes, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
You can't be good to anyone else until you be good to yourself. And I think it's probably the biggest secret of Thelemic magic. Be good to yourself and then be good to each other.
Amazing. Amazing. Lon, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for answering our questions. Thank you for sharing so much with us. It was a true pleasure to have you with us tonight, and we thank you.
Yes, indeed. We thank you a lot, and let me make a toast with Brazilian cachaça.
Just water.
Laroye, Lon.
Thank you, Lon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.